So welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us here tonight on Choices Market's YouTube channel. I'm Darcy Furness, the nutritionist here in the South Surrey location, and I'm delighted to tell you that we're now able to offer our full nutrition services. So if you'd like to take advantage of this free offering, you can reach out to your nearest Choices Markets and you'll be put in touch with the nutritionist closest to you. And to stay abreast of all things healthy, I recommend you head over to our website, www.choicesmarkets.com, and you can sign up for our newsletter, flyers, and what have you. There's lots of recipes. And that way you'll get all the sale information and all the good news when it arrives. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And please also know that we have a great online e-commerce platform now. So you can do your shopping from home, and that is curbside pickup. So that system's really been vamped up well. So take advantage of that. A couple of housekeeping details. Most of you know about our nutrition coupons, and about 8:30 tonight, we're going to send you one of these coupons, and we're going to ask you for your mailing address and ask you to answer a couple of questions. And in a few weeks, we're going to send you this coupon. If you have any questions tonight, you can use the chat function in YouTube. And to do that, you'll need to have signed into your own account. No worries if you haven't done that. I think most questions will probably be asked and answered, but I'll be putting up Leila's website and her email address in the chat function if you need to reach out to her afterwards with another question. And tonight we're going to run for about, I'm thinking about an hour and 15, Leila, something in that neighborhood. And then we'll ask some questions at the end. And the best part of live streaming to YouTube is that it's going to be here in perpetuity. So you can come back again and again and enjoy it over and over again. So tonight I'm delighted to welcome back Leila, one of my favorite presenters. She has decades of experience as an RMT and a yoga therapist. And she's operated Centerpoint Yoga Therapy Studio in White Rock for over 20 years. And as most of you know, she's an international educator and an author. Her transformational system of therapeutic yoga evolved from her desire to empower students on the path to self-healing. She skillfully guides students towards knowing their wholeness through awareness, gentle movement, breath, and mental repatterning. Tonight, Leila's going to explain to us how we can improve our digestion with yoga therapy. And by doing this, we will improve our mental and physical health. So she'll start with a little talk, and then we'll be walked through a gentle class. So please join me in welcoming Leila Stuart.
Hello out there in Zoom land. I'm very happy to be here tonight. So in this very short time that we have today, I wanted to give you a different perspective on digestion, the yogic perspective on digestion, which is perhaps a much more multi-dimensional perspective than you might get from your GP or maybe even your dietitian. So I have some intentions tonight. Number one is I'm not going to, just a proviso, I'm not going to give you a formula for do this for better digestion. What I would like to do instead is give you the broader yogic perspective on digestion, which is much more multidimensional. And those of you who have done seminars with me before know that I talk about the koshas, which is the different layers of our human experience, body, mind, spirit. And so that's my first intention, to give you a bit of a different perspective, a more holy, maybe a broader perspective. And then instead of giving you a formula, I'd like to leave you with some principles. So it's the teach someone to fish as opposed to give someone a fish. So if you understand some of the principles behind the yogic perspective on good digestion, then you can go on and do your own practice from what you've learned tonight and maybe change some things that you're doing in your life. And that's really what yoga is all about. It's a lifestyle practice. It's a lifelong practice for many people. And it's a way of shifting what you're doing by looking at your habits, at your thoughts, at your emotions, at the way you move, the way you breathe, all with a real sense of compassion. So not, not the you naughty girl, you're sitting like that. It's, oh, that's how you're sitting. Oh, that's how I feel when I sit like that. My back hurts. So yoga is not a punitive thing. It's a very self-compassionate and honoring sort of practice. So then the next intention that I have is to leave you with a little practice. And the way that I teach, because I'm also a massage therapist and I'm an anatomy lover, I teach experiential anatomy, I teach movement repatterning, and I teach what's called somatic practice. So somatic practice is the opposite of just doing 1, 2, 3, 4. Somatic practice is feeling yourself in your body from a very deep place, so that you move from an inner place, you're aware from an inner place. So it's really much more about awareness than it is about do this and do that. Okay, so let's look at the yogic perspective. And I'll try and keep my talking to maybe 25 minutes or something like that. So we've got lots of time for practice. So from the yogic perspective, good digestion is the key to radiant health. It's the absolute key to radiant health. And that's what Ayurveda, which is the sister science of yoga, also says, that everything depends on how good your digestive fire is. In the yogic perspective, though, digestion is not just digestion of food. It's also what you take in terms of your sense impressions. So if you are someone who loves to watch horror movies, from a yogic perspective, that's going to probably affect your digestion. Yeah. Or if you live in chaos, then that's going to affect your digestion. If you have lots of stress, that's going to affect your digestion. If you're in a difficult relationship, that's going to affect your digestion. So the yogic perspective is that all of these things affect your digestion. So it really behooves us to have a look at our life. And even though it might not make sense in the moment, if you think about it, if you're eating a meal and then in the middle of the meal, somebody calls you and gives you some terrible news, then immediately your stomach is going to go into knots and probably you're not going to feel like eating, and you might even feel kind of sick after that. So our emotions definitely affect our body, and our body definitely affects our emotions. So good digestion is digestion on all levels. So we want to keep that in mind. And that would be the first principle. So what am I feeding myself? Yeah. Am I feeding myself 6 hours of Facebook a day? Yeah. Or some kind of social media? What am I feeding myself? So just to look at that, and to look at that with a lot of self-compassion. Yeah. So what yoga says is that we can provide lots of different practices for improving digestion, ranging from movements and specific breathing techniques and mental practices and meditation, ritual. All these different practices can improve digestion. Okay, the second shift in terms of the yogic perspective is that, and I've already touched on this, that physical digestion means digestion on all levels. So digestion, of course, has different aspects to it. So we take something in, we chew it up, we break it up. It goes into our stomach where it gets broken up into little pieces. So that's the digestion part of it. It then goes into the small intestine and it gets absorbed in the small intestine, and then it gets assimilated. So all of the products of digestion are sent to our whole body. And then that gives us energy to live. Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. So basically what the yogic perspective on digestion is be aware. Be aware. Be aware of the foods that you eat and the effect that those foods have on you. And I know that the dietitians at Choices probably tell people this. Be aware. It's not just what you eat. It's what is your environment that you're eating in? Are you standing up to eat? Are you eating on the run? Are you eating while you're watching television? So the yoga tradition would say that all of these things matter. Yeah. So we also want to be aware of our body. So how are we aligned in our body? How are we sitting? So if we're sitting like this, we're actually compressing all of our digestive organs, and they need room to move and in order to function well. So if we stand or we sit with poor posture, then that's going to affect our digestion. We also want to be aware of how we move. Yeah, so if we don't move very much, then our organs don't get massaged, and they actually need movement and need massage from movement in order to work well. And the reason for that is that all the organs are designed, they're all covered with a slippery mucus, and they're supposed to slide over each other. So when you move and you twist, all your intestines are slipping and sliding over each other. But if you don't move very much, or if you've had inflammation, for example, then you can get adhesions in your organs. And some of your small intestines might be adhering to each other, or the stomach might be adhering to another, some fascia, or there's many different ways that your organ function can be disrupted by some kind of restriction on their movement. So the more we move, and especially as we age, we want to keep moving so that our organs get proper movement. And not only are they designed to slip and slide over each other, but when we move in certain ways, then the organs get compressed and then released. And that also builds organ health, because all organs have fascia in them, and fascia is hydrated by squeezing and elongation rhythmically. So the way we can keep our organ system, our digestive system, happy and vibrant as we age is to keep moving. Yeah, and of course I have a bias. I'm a yoga therapist, and I also have a bias because movement is what has saved me throughout my life from painful episodes. So I have a bias, and I teach it, so I have a bias, but I know that it works. Yeah. Okay, we also want to be aware of our breath, because breath affects digestion. So all of these things are affecting digestion. So if we tend to breathe up here in our chest, in our upper lungs, then the diaphragm, which is our main breathing muscle, doesn't move very much. And the way we are designed is that as you inhale, the diaphragm descends so that the lungs can inflate. And as the diaphragm descends, it squishes all the organs. That's why when you breathe into your belly gets bigger. Yeah. So if you're breathing up here, then the diaphragm doesn't descend and massage the organs. So we get massage of the organs from walking, from moving, from breathing deeper down. Yeah, so breathing deeper down is another way that you can help your digestion. We also want to be aware of our emotions. Yeah. So if we tend to be a very emotional person, especially a hot emotion person with impatience and irritation and anger, then that's going to affect our digestion. So when we're putting that digestive fire into our emotions, then it actually can depress our actual physical digestive fire. So we also want to be aware of the thoughts that we have about food, about maybe some of the programming that we've had about food. You shouldn't eat that, or that food's bad for you, or if you eat too much of that, or you can't eat very much food because you'll get too fat. So our beliefs, if they're harsh beliefs in particular, that can affect our digestion, because we'll look at food and instead of seeing something that can nourish us, we're seeing something that is not good, is bad. Yeah. So part of the yoga therapy for digestion is looking at what are our beliefs and how can we perhaps shift our beliefs from, say, something like, I have to lose weight so that people will like me, or whatever the belief is, to I make good food choices because I'm nourishing my health to optimal. Yeah. So one, you can hear the negativity in my voice, and that negativity has an effect on my digestion. Yeah. Okay, so lastly, we want to be aware of our relationships, our connections, our sense of purpose. So if we're in a crappy relationship, or if we feel isolated, which many of us did during COVID times, and many of us had much worse digestion during COVID because we were eating things that maybe weren't so great for us, and we were super stressed out. Yeah, and stress, I'll talk about that a little bit in a little while. But stress is one of the biggest factors in digestion, in the quality of your digestion. Okay, so I want to say just a little bit about digestive fire. So the Sanskrit word for that is Agni. So Agni means fire. And when we have good digestive fire, we have good energy, we have good sleeps, our eyes are luminous, our skin is clear and has that robust energy to it. And so we want to build that fire. Now, some people have too much digestive fire, and so that would manifest in conditions like hyperacidity or irritable bowel syndrome. So in cases like that, we actually want to soften the Agni a little bit. We want to calm things down to bring so that the digestion is optimal. So that's why there's no one formula for yoga for good digestion, because it really depends on what's going on for you. So when we do the practice today, if you know that you've got a hyper condition or a hypo condition, so a hypo condition would be you're not producing enough HCl, you have constipation, food just doesn't, you have lots of gas, it just doesn't sit well. So in that case, then we'd want to build the fire. Okay. So those are principles. Yeah. When you're hyper, you want to calm down. When you're hypo, you want to build up the fire. And we can build that digestive fire with all different kinds of yoga practices. And the same practice can be done in two different ways, one for hypo people and one for hyper people. So if we want to really calm something down, we go really slowly, we use great awareness, we use the breath way down there. If we want to speed something up, we might do more standing poses, we might do more elongation poses that stretch the muscles. So it's all about you and what's going on with you, and then everything is modified for you. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the koshas and how digestion affects each one of those koshas. So kosha means a layer or a covering, and koshas are the different densities of consciousness. So our most physical is visible is our physical body. And in the yoga tradition, the physical body is given the name Annamaya Kosha. So Anna means food, Kosha means sheath, body, and Maya means illusion. So Annamaya Kosha means body of food, which is an illusion. So that little last bit is the acknowledgement that we have a body, but we are not our body. Yeah. So in the yoga tradition, the very basic assumption is that we are soul in a physical body. So when we look at the body of food, it becomes very apparent that the quality of food that we put in our body has a huge effect on not just on our physical body, but because all of the koshas are interrelated and interdependent, if we eat crappy food, then it's also going to affect our mind, it's going to affect our emotions, and maybe we'll be a bit snappy and it'll affect our relationships as well. Also, it can affect how we feel about ourselves. So with Annamaya Kosha, we look at the actual digestive tract. We want to know something about what do we look like and what happens in there. And I can't go too much into that today because we have such a short amount of time. But I want to talk a little bit about that and show you some things. But mostly I want you to feel them in your own body, because that's what experiential anatomy is. And it helps you to be more in yourself, more embodied. Yeah. Okay, so I have, rather than showing you some boring photo on the screen, I have quite a sweet little organ apron that I'm going to put on to show you the digestive system. And this is not an accurate representation of your organs. In fact, these are your lungs here, and they're about the size of your hand, wherein where in reality your lungs go from your waist up to your neck and front to back. So it's not a good realistic representation, but it gives you an idea for the digestive system. So the digestive system is about 30 feet of a hollow tube. Yeah. So it's all hollow. So it starts here. So if you think about it, our skin, the skin of our face, involutes into the inside of our mouth, which then becomes our esophagus. So here's my esophagus. So we chew our food, we break it up. There's some saliva and some enzymes that get in there, and then it goes down into the esophagus. And so just maybe trace this with me. I can't see any of you, but it can be helpful to use your hands to give your nervous system a tactile cue. So if you can just stroke from the bottom of your chin here, the throat, down the throat, imagining that you are stroking through the esophagus. Yeah? Let's do that a few times. Of course, it's inside, not outside. And if you can think about it, actually, if you could now swallow a few times, put your hand on your throat and feel how when you swallow, something happens. Yeah, there's a movement. Yeah. So swallow a few times. And you might even put your hand further down and maybe you can feel something inside moving. Because this is all one tube, 30 feet. Okay, so from the esophagus, there's a valve here where the esophagus passes through the diaphragm. So there's a hole in the diaphragm for the esophagus, and it's got a sphincter. And if some of you may have GERD or a hiatus hernia, and what that is that hole in the esophagus in the diaphragm that the esophagus passes through it loses its elasticity. It gets too slack, and part of the stomach then comes up, or if not the stomach, then the contents come up into the esophagus. So sometimes that can happen with poor breathing habits, because if the diaphragm isn't getting toned from good breathing, so the diaphragm is a muscle, so if it's not exercised well, then it gets slack, just like when you don't exercise your quadriceps, they get slack and soft. So that can give the opportunity for the stomach or the stomach contents to come up into the esophagus. So then from the esophagus, into the sphincter, and then here's the stomach. And the stomach is much bigger than that. And here I've got my water-filled balloons to show you the stomach. So this would be a stomach that has very little food in it, or it's just got some fluid in it. So if you take your hand or both your hands and find the bottom of your ribs on the left and curve the palm of your hand just underneath your ribs a little bit, and then bend forward, and you might be able to feel your stomach sort of fall into your hand. And it is like a water-filled balloon. It's full of fluid. So do that a few times. It's like you're pouring your stomach into your hand. Yeah. So there's a stomach that doesn't have very much in it. Here's a stomach that has a good meal in it. Yeah. So your stomach can expand to hold about a quart of food, more than a liter of food. And so when you eat, your stomach falls. Yeah. And sometimes the stomach can actually prolapse and it's way too far down. And again, it's losing its elasticity because stomachs also are muscle. They're visceral muscle. So if they don't get worked properly, then they also lose their elasticity and they lose their capacity to rebound. Yeah. So if you think about holding this water-filled balloon in your hands, that's your stomach full. Yeah, we don't think of our organs very much, but there's about 25 or 30 pounds of organs in our torso, and we're moving those around. We don't think of it. We just think of muscles and bones. So I want you today to get a sense of these water-filled balloon organs that are inside of you. Yeah. And when we do our practice, I'd like you to get a sense of moving from your organs. Yeah. It brings a different quality. So that's the stomach. And then from the stomach, there's another valve between the stomach and the small intestine. It doesn't really show. There's pink and pink. Yeah, there's another valve there. And the small intestine is about 20 feet of this not woven together. It's 20 feet of a tube that's all wound inside. It's sort of squished inside the peritoneum, the abdominal sac. Yeah. So the food, when it goes in through the small intestine, the food is being absorbed. So actually what happens is that all of the blood from the intestines goes into the liver, which is huge, this is a tiny little liver, but it's a huge structure that goes all the way. It's like a big segment in across your whole body, front to back to side. And all of the blood from your digestive system goes into your liver, and the liver takes things out. It might extract some toxins and stuff. The little gallbladder puts some things into the whole mix, and then that's going around and being absorbed. All of those good things are being absorbed. Everything that's been broken down into fats, protein, carbohydrate, sugars, those are absorbed in the small intestine. And the small intestine has these little projections, like little hairs, that are called villi. And they're little finger-like projections, so that there's more surface area for absorption. And apparently, I don't know because I haven't done this, but if you spread all of the villi out into a flat surface, it would be 3 tennis courts. That's how much absorption capacity that you have. Okay, so then from here down here, there's another valve called the ileocecal valve that is the exit of the small intestine and the entrance to the large intestine. So the large intestine starts down on the right-hand side, the ascending colon, it's called the colon, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon over on the left. And then it dives back into the rectum. And that's the other end of the tube. Yeah, so we involute from our cheeks into our mouth, we go through that tube, and then it comes out the other end, and then it becomes the skin on our bum. So it's all one hollow tube. People are shocked about that, but it's true. Okay, so that's my demo there. Okay, so that is Annamaya Kosha. body of food. So that's the densest kosha. And then we've got pranamaya kosha. So prana is life force energy. So prana is what keeps us alive. So in Chinese medicine, it's called qi. It's got other names in other languages. In yoga, it's prana. So when we have prana in our physical body, we are alive. When we die, the prana leaves. Yeah. And prana is movement. So in yoga, prana moves everything. There's 5 different kinds of pranas. They're called vayus. And each prana moves lives in a different part of the body and has a different function and moves in a different way. Yeah. So one prana brings food in. Yeah. Another prana digests it. So that's the digestive fire. Another prana absorbs it. Another prana spreads it all around, assimilates it into all the cells in the body. And then the 5th prana gives us the vitality to move and live, the vitality that we get from what we have digested. Yeah. So from the yogic perspective, we want to watch all of those. What do we take in? Can we digest it? Yeah. Are we assimilating? All of those things. So in pranamaya kosha, we look at the physiology of the organ systems. And the organ system that we're particularly interested in digestion, besides the whole digestive system, is the nervous system. Because the nervous system, of course, makes the digestion work. So you've probably heard we've got in our autonomic nervous system, we've got the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, 2 branches. And the sympathetic nervous system is the part that gives us alertness and action. And when we perceive fear, then that part of the nervous system takes us into fight or flight so that we can escape. Yeah. The parasympathetic nervous system, when it's up, when it's primary, all of the organic functions are working. So our digestion, our healing, our saliva, our heart rate. So the parasympathetic nervous system usually makes things be calm and relaxed and work in their physiological function. And when the sympathetic nervous system is up, then the parasympathetic system is suppressed. So this is where stress comes in. If we are stressed a lot, then that means that our nervous system is not putting blood and attention into our digestive system. So it's not going to be producing hydrochloric acid. It's not going to be producing the digestive enzymes. It's not going to be making peristalsis, the rhythmic movement that moves everything through the system. It's not interested in digestion when you have to escape from that saber-toothed tiger. So all of those organic functions are shut down. So when we are stressed, automatically our digestion is going to go down. Yeah. So principle, here we go. Calming the nervous system is one of the first things that we do with pretty well any digestive disorder. So we can calm the nervous system through breathing. We can calm it through the way we do our asana, our practice, our movement practice. We can calm it by meditation, by affirmation. So that's a really, really important principle that I'd like you to take away, that calming the nervous system is it's the number one thing I do with people when they come to me with digestive issues. So one of the main ways to work with calming the nervous system is the breath. And like I was saying before, if you're breathing up here, doing shallow breathing, and the diaphragm isn't moving very much, then you're not going to have great digestion because you're not getting the organs moved very much. And usually if you're breathing up here, it's because you're stressed. Yeah. And that's a pattern, that's a stress breathing habit of breathing shallowly. So when we want to calm the nervous system down, we want to get the breath down. Okay, so the next kosha is manomaya kosha. Manas is mind. So in the yogic tradition, there's a recognition that our mind has an awful lot to do with our digestion. So especially the emotions that we have. Yeah. So when we're all tied up in anxiety, nervousness, anger, then we're not going to be digesting very well. Yeah. So it's the mind that causes stress. Yeah. Two different people with two different mindsets can undergo the same kind of situation, and one person will stay calm through it, their digestion will work, and another person will get so uptight and so anxious that their digestion will be depressed. Yeah. So whenever you're under stress, then the blood that would normally be going to your digestive system or any of the organic systems is going to be shunted to your muscles so that you can get out of there or set up to fight. Yeah. Okay, so in this kosha, we look at what is the food that we are giving ourselves. So not just the physical food, but the sensations that we're giving ourselves. Do we play loud music when we're in the car all the time? Or at home? Do we have neon paint in our bedroom, you know? So all the sensory impressions that come through all of our holes, so food through the mouth, smell, eyes, ears, touch, they all matter to digestion in the yogic tradition. Yeah, our environment. Yeah, so calming the nervous system could mean going for a walk down by the beach. Yeah, or even just sitting outside in the garden, putting your feet in the dirt. Yeah, so those kinds of things can help your digestion. Yeah. So the next kosha is Vijnanamaya kosha, or Vijnana means wisdom. So our wisdom mind. So this part of us is our personality. It's our conditioning, our beliefs. It's our executive functioning and also our higher functioning. So this is the part of the mind that can shift perspective to a higher place, can form an intention to change a habit that is maybe not so healthy. So in this kosha, we really develop our awareness. Yeah, we form an intention. I am going to be aware. I am going to be mindful. And then you put a practice into play. You form a plan, you put it into play. When you screw up, you give yourself some compassion and you say, well, I'm just going to do that again, knowing that I'm human and I'm going to get off the path sometimes. Yeah. So we want to be aware of our personal stressors. We want to, and that takes time. That takes being quiet. So here in this kosha, when we sit and be quiet in meditation, then we often, something comes up in our awareness. Yeah. So we want to be aware of our personal stressors. We want to be aware of our relationship to food. Yeah. Do we have judgments about certain foods or the way that we should eat or whatever? What are our eating habits? So I mentioned eating in the car or eating standing up or eating reading. So all of those things matter. So in the yogic tradition and in Ayurveda, when you eat, you just eat. You pay attention to your food. You're mindful of the smells, of the taste, of the texture, of the textures. So you pay attention. Yeah. So in this kosha, we become very mindful. Yeah. Do we have self-judgment? Do I judge myself when I eat a food or when I eat a certain way? Yeah. Can I replace that with compassion? This is the part of us that can see, that can witness, oh, I'm doing that again. I'm going to give myself some compassion and go back to the practice that I know is helpful for me. Yeah. And also in this kosha, it matters how you relate to your condition. Yeah. So if you have a digestive condition, if you've got GERD or irritable bowel or Crohn's or whatever, if you hate it, then that's not going to be very helpful for your digestion. Yeah. So in this kosha, we cultivate self-compassion. We cultivate loving kindness for ourselves. We cultivate patience. We cultivate the virtues, and all of that can help our digestion. So I didn't say this about the nervous system, but the pathways in the nervous system for healing. So healing only happens when we're in parasympathetic mode, are the same pathways that are used for attachment, for forming relationship with someone. So when a mother looks in the baby's eyes and talks sweet tones to that baby, then she's improving the health of the baby. Yeah. So when we talk to ourselves in a harsh way, then that's not helpful for our health. But if we talk to ourselves in a kind way, in a patient and compassionate way, then that's going to be helpful. Yeah. Okay. And then lastly, Anandamaya kosha. So Ananda is joy. So, but not the ordinary joy. It's the joy that comes when we feel in unity, when we feel connected to our wholeness, when we're feeling unconditional love. So, and when we have a sense of purpose in our life. So this is the finest, the most rarefied energy of consciousness. Yeah, so each layer is a little more refined, a little finer. So Anandamaya kosha is the very finest, and it's the layer that's closest, that's just covering the light of the soul. Yeah. So when we when we polish this kosha, and it's fed by all the other koshas. So when we polish this kosha, then we express soulful qualities. We are more compassionate. We are kinder. We are more patient. Yeah. So that's why we want to do all of these practices, because for most of us, we want to be the best representation or the best version of ourselves. And that's what the yoga tradition does. Yeah. And it's also about gratitude. So when we have gratitude, we're giving thanks, and often to that which is greater than ourselves, that which we can't even comprehend. But some part of us knows that that there always is something bigger than ourselves. For some people, it's nature. For other people, it's awareness. For other people, it's God. So whatever you call that, that's what this layer is about. And it's about cultivating a relationship with that. Yeah. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about the digestive system. So we have a good time for our practice. Okay, so in this practice, all you'll need is your chair. And normally I would be doing a lot of this on the floor, but because I can't see any of you and some of you may not be able to get up and down from the floor well, then I'll modify everything into a chair practice. But whatever you're learning, you can take onto the floor as well, or also into standing poses. Okay, so in this practice, first we're going to get a sense of feeling the organs. So using experiential anatomy to actually get an internal sense, a felt sense, or a direct experience of our organs. And then we'll do some postures, and then we'll do a little meditative practice. And the breath will be interspersed throughout all of this. Okay, so I don't think we actually finished tracing the digestive organs. So let's do that now. Let's feel. So you put your hand on your throat, you swallowed. So just do that again to feel the esophagus. And then keeping your hand on your esophagus, stick your tongue out really far. And feel that something happens there. Yeah. And then trace down the esophagus just to your solar plexus. And that's where that valve is. Yeah. The pyloric valve. So if you take your hand again, just below your ribs, I know you felt your stomach. So keep your hands there and get a sense of breathing into your stomach. Remember what it looks like. It's like that water-filled balloon. So get a sense of sinking your breath down and filling your stomach with breath as you inhale, expanding it. And then deflating it as you exhale. And keep breathing. One of the ways that you can increase the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, is by extending your exhalations, by sinking your breath down and slowing it down. Yeah. So when you make your exhalation longer than your inhalation, then that's going to be toning your parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah. So if you think about it or put your mind in there, you can move from your stomach. So if you, it's full of fluid. So if you think about pouring the fluid out to the side and then pouring the fluid the other way, then you're moving from your organ. Yeah. And it's different than moving from your muscles. The organs give internal support to the skeleton. Yeah. And you could tip forward, you could move, you could pour the fluid forward, you could pour the fluid back. So that's moving from your stomach. Yeah. And then if you move one of your hands, say your right hand, draw it across the midline, then there's the valve with your small intestine. Yeah. And your small intestine, if you just put your hands on your belly here, we think of our organs in front, but they're not just in front. The small intestines, they fill this whole cavity, front, back, and sides. But first, let's spend a little bit of time sending the breath into the small intestines in the front. So as you inhale, think of sinking your breath down. Of course, your breath isn't going down there. Your diaphragm is going down and it's squeezing or compressing. And then as you exhale, a bit of a longer exhalation. And then if you've got the capacity in your shoulders, then now take your hands behind your back. So above your pelvis, so in the soft tissue, because right underneath your hands are also organs. Those are your small intestines there. So again, now sink your breath now down, but think about sending your breath to the back of the small intestines. That 20-foot long wound up tube, all curved together, all lots of corners and curves. So as you inhale, think of sending your breath there. And as you exhale, nice long exhalation. Okay, so then at the bottom on the right, sort of if you find the tip of your pelvis and your belly button, then about halfway between is that ileocecal valve. Yeah, and sometimes you can help digestion just by massaging it. So we'll maybe do that in a little while. So that's the valve between the small intestine and the colon, the large intestine. So with your hands, just trace that large intestine. Yeah. So it goes ascending, transverse, descending, and then it dives back to the rectum. Yeah. Good. Okay. And then not part of the digestive tract, so it's not part of the tube, but we've got the liver. So it, like I said, it's a huge wedge through the middle of the body, the right-hand side of the body. It comes all the way across to the midline. So if you could take one hand across just at the bottom of the ribs on the right now, and the other hand at the side and the back, That's your liver. Yeah. It's about a kilo. It's huge. And it's got different lobes, and you can have a lot of your liver removed and it will regenerate. Yeah. So now if you could imagine sending your breath to your liver. Inhaling into it, a nice long exhalation. Okay. So sometimes, and this isn't just a yoga thing, it's also a massage therapy thing. Sometimes massaging the organs can be very helpful. So let's just go through and massage the organs a little bit. So taking your hand onto your stomach again, just below the ribs, and just use a circular motion, a nice gentle circular motion. And let your hands, imagine that your hands are cupping that stomach, and that your hands are soothing, they're compassionate, they're light touch. Good. And then we can't trace all the small intestine, but one way of working with the small intestine is to start at the navel, and with your finger pad soft, start making a circle around your navel and make it clockwise. So you're moving up the right and down the left, and start with a small circle and keep your hands nice and soft. And then gradually expand the circle. So sometimes I have actually got rid of gas and a stomach ache by doing this kind of massage. Yeah. So then when your hands get wider and wider, you'll actually be on the large intestine. So we already did this, but just do it a few more times, massaging your large intestine. So massaging it this way is going to be helpful for constipation, because you want the contents to move. And if you do have constipation, you might want to use a little bit of a firmer touch and circle your way up. And that can help move the poop through. Now, if you have diarrhea, then you might want to go the other way, because you don't want to have diarrhea. So you want the contents of the large intestine to maybe go back so that more water can be absorbed, which is the function. One of the functions of the colon is to dehydrate all of the stuff that has arrived there. Yeah, compact it so that you can then eliminate it. Yeah. Okay. So just close your eyes for a moment now and tune into your digestive system. And remembering it goes from the belly all the way to the back, it goes side to side, and it goes up to your solar plexus and down to your pelvic floor. There's a few other organs in there too. And notice, after doing that experience, after having that experience, what feels different? What do you notice? Okay. So we're going to move on to the next practice, which is a breath practice, and it's breath using sound. And in this practice, I'm drawing from Chinese medicine as well, because in Chinese medicine, there's particular sounds for particular organs to tone the organs. So we'll start with the stomach, and the stomach is also related to the spleen in Chinese medicine. So taking your hands here. We've already done a little breathing into the stomach, but now we're going to add a sound. And the sound for the stomach is a whoo sound. And you want to get it low. You want to imagine that it's coming from your stomach. Yeah. So taking an inhalation, sinking your inhalation down into your stomach, and then nice long exhalation. And if you can, a little pause at the end of the exhalation. Do that a few more times. Okay, so letting that go after this exhalation. Taking your hands onto the front of the small intestines now. And the sound here is like you're trying to blow a candle out. So doing that again, as you inhale, sinking your inhalation down. And as you exhale, imagine that you're exhaling from there. Making your exhalation as long as possible, and maybe pausing for a moment at the end before you inhale. And letting that go after this exhalation. Okay, so now the large intestine is the sh sound, like your sh. Yeah, so the large intestine, actually, let's do this. We just did the small intestine. Yeah, now let's do the large intestine, the sh. So as we do that, let's move our hands in that circular way. So as you inhale, have your hands down on the lower right. Think of inhaling into that place. And as you exhale, shh. Move your hands. Imagine you're exhaling right from there and arriving back. So do that a couple more times. Shh. 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 And letting that go. And then the last breath, there are more sounds than this, but I've just chosen these four, is for the liver. So taking your hands back onto the liver. The liver does well over 300 different functions. It's a huge organ and we want to keep it happy. Yeah. So the sound, the healing sound for the liver is like a snake. So taking an inhalation into your liver, imagine, of course. And as you exhale, and sending that right into your liver. And last time. So closing your eyes again. And in experiential anatomy, we always want to pause for a moment and feel what happened. What are the sensations? What are the effects of what you've just done? Okay, slowly opening your eyes. So if you don't want to go through and breathe into each organ, your best bet is just to do belly breathing. Yeah, so think of sinking your breath into your belly, knowing that the intestines go front to back. Sometimes I just like to put my hands on my back and breathe into my back, and that helps my digestion. That helps tone the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's a quick way of doing it. Okay, so now we'll move on to the movement part. And the philosophy behind the postures used for digestive health in yoga is that we want to be compressing and twisting and elongating the organs themselves, because again, they all have elastic fibers in them. Yeah. So traditionally, the postures that are most helpful for digestion are poses that compress the organs. So forward bends, side bends, and twists are all traditional postures for good digestion. Yeah, so we'll do a few of those in the chair. So if you could sit forward on your chair, or if you are comfortable sitting on the floor, then please feel free to do that. And you might need to be sitting on something, a cushion or some folded blankets or something. And throughout these postures, as much as you can, I would invite you to think about or to feel like you're moving from the organs. Yeah. And to keep doing that calming breath. So inhaling, sinking it down, and exhaling a little longer exhalation, slower exhalation, and maybe a pause at the end. So I should say with anything that we do, breath included, that if you feel any discomfort, then that's a signal from your body that you probably need to modify what you're doing or not do it. So yoga practice is meant to be a practice of self-compassion. So we don't want to do things that are disturbing or that hurt. And just because I'm doing something, it doesn't mean that you have to do it. And hopefully I will give you good instructions so that you know when is far enough for you. And the same thing with breathing. If you feel at all like you get hungry for breath, or you're gasping for breath, or you you feel like you need to push out the air, then those are all signs that you could probably do something different to come back to the calming, to the calm breath. Yeah. And the calm breath is the breath that's going to help the parasympathetic nervous system and your digestion. Okay, so for the first movement, this is actually one of the best things you can do for your digestion. And I'll show you sideways. It's called Apanasana, or wind relieving pose. And yes, it means that. So it might be a good thing that none of us can hear each other. Okay, I'll show you first, and then we can do it together. So I'm going to bring my knee up toward my chest, and I can, if my knee isn't happy with that, I can put my hands behind my knee. So I'm going to take an inhalation, and as I inhale, I'm going to fill my belly, and my knee might come away a little bit because my belly is filling. And then as I exhale, I pull my knee toward my head. So I'm compressing all those organs. So I do that a few times. So just inhaling and then exhaling. Okay. So we'll do it a few times from the muscles, and then we'll switch to the organs. So I'll do it 3 times on this side and follow along. But if your breath is different than mine, then go with your breath. Yeah. And if it's only comfortable for you to bring your knee up this high, and maybe if it's not that comfortable for your head to bend forward, then it doesn't matter. You just do the bottom part, or do as much of the head as feels comfortable. Okay. So sitting comfortably on the edge of your chair. Take an exhalation. Nice long exhalation, belly compresses, deflates. Okay, take an inhale, bring your knee up, take an inhalation, let your knee come away from you a little bit as your belly fills. And then as you exhale, bring your belly towards your chest. Feel your organs squeezing. Inhaling, filling belly, exhaling, compressing belly, and stretching the back of the small intestines. And then putting that leg down, I'm going to turn around now for the other side. So picking that knee up, bringing it towards your chest. Take an inhalation. As you inhale, knee moves away as the belly fills. And then exhaling. And then put that knee down. So this time I'd like you to play with, we'll just do a couple of moving from your organs. So instead of bringing your knee toward you, you'll think of compressing the front, compressing all of those organs together so that your head comes closer. Yeah. So pick the right knee up. Take an inhalation into your belly, spreading all of those organs apart. And then as you exhale, think about compressing all of those digestive organs in the front. And then as you inhale, think about inflating those organs to come back up. And then exhaling, compressing all of those organs so that your skeleton moves into flexion. Good. Just do it a couple of times on each side. So now left side. And compare the two. How does moving from your organs differ from than moving from your skeleton and your muscles? Okay, as you inhale now, inhaling into your organs, digestive organs. And as you exhale, think about compressing the front of them, stretching across the back of them. And then inhaling and inflating the front of the organs to come up. Do that one more time. Good. Okay. I'm going to go till 25 past, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions. Okay, so side bending. Just again, you're sitting on the front of your chair. And as you exhale, just move your hand closer to the floor so that you'll compress the organs on the right. You'll be opening up, elongating the ones on your left. Then as you inhale, come back to neutral, and then exhale, move the left arm closer to the floor. So in your own breath rhythm, if it's different than mine. And feel how the organs are compressed on one side and elongated on the other side. Okay, now for these next couple, think about moving from your organs now. So as you exhale, compress the intestines on the right so that your body curls sideways. And then as you inhale, think about inflating all of those organs to come back. And then as you exhale, compressing all the organs on the left. Inhaling, inflating them to come up. And one more time on each side. Noticing how does it differ when you move from an internal place, from your organs. And let that go. Take a moment to feel what that's all about. Okay. Don't think I have time to do a twist because I want to do cat-cow with you. So just know that you could do a twist the same way. So I'm going to show you cat-cow again from the side. So you want to have your hands on your thighs, on your knees. And as you inhale, you want to actually use your hands to pull yourself forward a little bit into a back arch as you inhale. So now you're stretching all of these anterior intestines, compressing the back ones. And then as you exhale, you go the other way, you round your back. And now you're compressing all the front ones and lengthening the back ones, stretching the back ones. So going back and forth with your own breath rhythm. And last time. And taking a moment to feel that. Okay, so the last pose we're going to do is a fun pose. Kids love it, and it's good for your digestion. It's called lion pose. And I'm going to take my glasses off because your eyes are involved. So as you exhale, you're going to stick out your tongue, make a sound like ah, and you're going to look up and lean forward. Yeah, so it looks like this. And you can feel that as your tongue goes out, it's pulling on your whole digestive tract, maybe all the way down to the end. Okay, let's do that together. So when you're ready, taking an inhalation, as you exhale, we'll do it 2 more times. You can't help but smile when you do this. So close your eyes for a moment. Feel what that pose did for you. It probably heated you up a little bit too. Okay, so last practice, just a quick minute, and then we'll take some questions if there are any. So you can sit back in your chair comfortably and just take one hand onto your heart area and the other hand onto your belly. So this is a gratitude practice. And gratitude has been shown to be a very powerful factor in calming the nervous system. So close your eyes, please. And if it's not comfortable for you to close your eyes, you can just turn your gaze downward. And feel your hand on your heart. Knowing that your heart is in there, just like a water-filled balloon, nestled between your huge lungs. And bring to mind some time in your life where you felt deep gratitude. So remembering who was involved, where were you, what's the scene, what was it about, the situation. But most of all, in your heart of hearts, bringing up that feeling of gratitude, recreating that feeling of gratitude. And then if it feels right, appropriate, in your mind, say, I am so grateful for my digestive system. Say that 2 or 3 times. And if you can feel it, evoke that feeling of gratitude, then great. And then I am so grateful for the good food that I have. And then bring to mind one other thing in your life right now that you are grateful for. And in your mind, repeat that gratitude 3 times. And when you finish, taking your hands onto your lap, noticing the quality of your sensations right now, your feeling, the state of your mind, and then slowly opening your eyes. Welcome back. So that is our practice for today. And of course, you'll have access to it. And I am going to begin a class series this week. I do 3 semesters of classes per year. And so this semester will go till June. And we will be working with the spine. And the spine has a lot to do with digestion. Often working with the spine can help digestion, because if we don't move our spine well, then again, our organs aren't getting moved very well. So I invite you to join me for the next 11 weeks. Or if you have questions, you're welcome to email me. And Darcy, are there any questions?
Thanks, Leila. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing your generous gifts with us. And I love how you remind us all just to sit after we complete an exercise, to really be mindful, not going from one thing to another, and really getting ourselves into our anatomy, that experiential piece that's so important.
Like food, like a
right?
meal, like a meal, pausing after the meal.
Like
Giving your
life,
body
like
a
life,
chance.
right? If we're not in it, we're not in it in the moment. And this little thinking about being mindful with the food and after an exercise reminds us this is how we should be living our lives, right? To be really, really present. So that's great. There are actually no questions here, but I have one about these series of exercises. If we wanted to do them on a daily basis, is there a best time of day to do them as they pertain to digestion?
The general rule for any yoga is that you don't do it, that you wait at least 2 hours after eating before doing it. There's only one yoga pose that you can do right after eating, and that's a pose called hero pose that actually helps digestion immediately. So if you overeat and maybe I'll just show it.
Cool.
So it's just sitting on your knees. And if you can't sit on your knees, then you can put something behind, something behind you, or if your ankles aren't comfortable, you can put something under your ankles. But if you overeat, for example, I have used this. If you overeat, then you sit in this posture for however long is comfortable, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and you can often feel immediately that things are calming down.
Interesting. What is it about that posture that helps?
I think it somehow reorganizes because you're pulling down here. Right. Yeah, I'm not sure the actual mechanism of it, but it works.
Probably because our stomach, as you demonstrated with the little balloon, the stomach is lower.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's interesting. You've got some nice comments. Thank you, Leila. I feel my breath more spacious, my organs more sliding and gliding inside.
Good.
That should be a t-shirt. Sliding and gliding.
Yeah, sliding, gliding.
That's awesome. And yes, thank you for the information on your upcoming sessions. And do you need to sort of qualify for the advanced one, or how do they separate out?
No, we're online.
Okay.
And the morning class has a few more, I teach Thursdays. The morning class has more people that need more modifications. So I do the same material, but sometimes in the evening class, I can take it a little bit further. But I have lots of people who have never done yoga before start in the evening class.
Okay, that's good to know.
It really just depends on what time works for people.
Right, that's great. Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap up tonight. So thank you everyone so much for coming. I know, as always, I'm incredibly relaxed, and I highly recommend Leila at the end of every day. So we can always go back to YouTube and just hear her. This would be a great evening activity rather than doom scrolling, as we talked about earlier. So taking care of ourselves. Anyways, Leila, thank you again very, very much for sharing your generous gifts with us. We love it.
And I think everyone's going to get a little note from me, and I think my email is in that note.
Oh, wonderful. And I've all got them all up on the chat here that people can read as well. And if anybody has any questions, they can always reach out to me here at the store, Sauceri Choices Markets, Sauceri Nutrition at choicesmarkets.com. And that's also written down the chat for you, and Leila's website and her email as well. So have a great evening, everyone. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you for coming.
Talk to you soon then.